welcome to another episode of Holistic Healing with Lorrie. I'm Lorrie Rivers, and I help people with long hauler syndrome and ME/CFS, so chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, Lyme, all those types of chronic illnesses that are mystery illnesses, right? I help them to fully heal, which I myself have healed from all of those, actually. So today I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about how a simple process that you can do right now and that we're going to do together actually takes your body from fight, flight, or freeze, your nervous system, right? From sympathetic into parasympathetic. And that's also known as rest, digest, and heal. So we're essentially resetting your nervous system. And this is something that you can do on your own. And like I said, we are going to do it together later on in today's podcast. But you can do this in a manner of minutes. And it's really simple, and it's just this beautiful, elegant process. Now, you may have heard of it before. It's called tapping. It's also called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Now, my students and my clients with ME/CFS, with long hauler syndrome, with post-V issues, and I'm just going to say the V word because I can't really say it without getting in trouble. Also with Lyme, fibromyalgia, and other chronic illnesses, well, really, and just anybody actually, they find tapping so helpful for emotional, mental, physical health. And I've been using it in my Relief and Transformation course as well. And it's just been so helpful for people that I have now created a full course called Tapping for Long Hauler Syndrome, ME/CFS, so chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis, fibromyalgia, and more. Let's talk a little bit about the nervous system. My guess is that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are very familiar with how in these types of illnesses, the nervous system can get out of whack. And that can really slow down the healing process. And that there's this thing called brain retraining out there, which takes the nervous system into the parasympathetic state and teaches the body and teaches you how to take the nervous system into the parasympathetic state. Now, it's important for our bodies to be able to be in the sympathetic state, to be able to be in that fight or flight or freeze state. But at the same time, in today's world, and again, in these illnesses, the body tends to be in that state too often, which causes a lot of problems in the body. So we're going to talk about some of those problems in terms of cell danger response, right? So what happens when the body goes into the sympathetic state, the fight, flight, or freeze state, is actually on a cellular level. So we're not even talking about like where the blood goes in the body and what organs get shut down and things like that, but just on a cellular level even. In that fight or flight state, the cells go like this. They clamp down, they close down, which means that toxins are unable to get out of the cell. So waste is unable to be eliminated from the cell. And nutrients are unable to come into the cell, right? And this even comes down to the messages that we're giving ourselves day in and day out. I don't know about you, if you're having these symptoms, if you do have one of these illnesses, but I remember that when I was very ill, that when I had these symptoms, which was most of the time, but especially when they got really bad, I finally realized about 6 or 7 years into it, I think, actually, that I was giving my body the most horrible messages. I was thinking thoughts that were not helpful at all. It was things like, oh my God, that thing in my body is happening again. I'm dying from the inside out. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing anybody else can do. All of those types of messages. Now, I don't know about you, but even just as I'm listening to myself repeating those messages that I was giving my body, I can feel my body getting stressed out. I can feel myself getting stressed out and the nervous system getting a little amped up there. So we definitely want to shift that. Now, I do want to say before we go any further that I certainly agree and understand and am a big proponent of mind-body medicine and of doing brain retraining, but as a part of a holistic approach to these illnesses. And so in my Relief and Transformation course, we do some brain retraining with the tapping and a couple of other approaches that we learn, tools that you learn. But we also address the underlying physical root cause of these illnesses. And I go into a lot more detail about all of that in some of my other episodes of the podcast. So let's talk about these, what I'm calling tapping right now. Again, also called emotional freedom technique. And the way that we do this is you actually tap on acupressure points. And this literally, physically sends a calming signal to the brain, to the amygdala. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But basically, the way that you're retraining your brain is you are focusing at first on the problem. So you're focusing your mind on the problem while you're doing this tapping. So while you're sending these calming signals to the brain, and again, we're going to do some tapping together in just a little bit here. But what happens is, since you're sending these calming signals to the brain while you're focusing on the stressor, on the thing that's stressing you out, whether that's a symptom or a relationship or even finances, anything, then you're actually retraining the brain while you're sending these calming signals to not associate that particular focus, that problem, anymore with stress. I hope that makes sense to you. So you're actually literally retraining the brain to be able to be in a calm state when you run across these things that used to be triggers for you. So again, that might be a symptom that you're experiencing. It might be a relationship that you're having trouble with. But what people find over and over again, and again, sometimes this is in a matter of minutes, that they're rating, and we'll go through this. So when we rate our issues or whatever it is that's bothering us, we usually rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is the most negatively intense, and 0 is you wouldn't even bring it up if it were a 0, right? And what people find is that inevitably their rating goes down. And so it does put the body into a healing state. Again, within 5 to 10 minutes. It's amazing. So you're actually, by doing the tapping on these points that I'll show you, you're actually calming down the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that controls the stress response. Now again, that stress response is important. If you're driving a car and another car in front of you stops short, then it's definitely important for you to have that spike to go into the fight or flight so that you can respond quickly and hit the brakes there. But we do tend to have that amygdala very active way too often in today's society. Even when you're on the computer or if you're scrolling through social media, I know that this happens to me sometimes, or at least it used to, not nearly as much anymore. But if you see somebody that you know and they're doing something spectacular, and maybe you're judging yourself for not being able to be out and about in the world or whatever, what happens? You go into fight, flight, or freeze. We want to, again, to retrain the brain to, first of all, not be triggered by things like that don't deserve a trigger kind of response. In other words, you're not being chased by a lion, you're not driving a car and somebody's stopping in front of you. So it was very helpful in the past for when we were being chased by a tiger. But things like that don't really happen nearly as often these days. The tapping is going to allow your body to relax, to allow your body to go into that parasympathetic state, rest, digest, and heal. And this is when your body is able to do more healing. So not only do we feel better emotionally, but the body starts to be able to be in that healing state more often. And all of these things, there's actually scientific research on this, and we'll put the link down in the description to that. So just to give you an example, this is tapping, and there's another process that I do that's called trilogy, which actually includes tapping and a couple of other healing modalities as well. So between the tapping and trilogy, these things have changed my life for sure. And they are changing my clients' and students' lives as well. And just to give you an example, this is what one of my students had to say about a recent tapping meditation that we did together. And she is dealing with several different infections and co-infections and things like that, Lyme and V injury and ME/CFS. So she said, this was a milestone for me during this session, and we did this in class together in Relief and Transformation course. During the session, the complex emotion of fear and anger at myself and the world went from an 8 to a 5. However, the amazing thing is that within the hour, I felt myself growing stronger, and those intense, complex emotions just melted away to a 0.05. I felt and feel so very strong again, and that crushing fear now feels like a pesky fly that had landed on my shoulder that I can swat away quite easily. So I'm putting in my flag just to mark the spot that I'm in now as a huge win. It makes me feel as if I've climbed Mount Everest, and even though I'm not at the extreme top level, I feel like I'm certainly close to it, and all of you are cheering me on, so we have a wonderful community. So let's do one together, y'all. I'm so excited. Let's do it. Yeah. And anxiety is such a pervasive emotion and feeling that goes along with really just living life for pretty much everybody, but especially with these types of illnesses. When you're experiencing a symptom that nobody can tell you why you're experiencing it, do make sure to watch some of my other episodes, especially the ones on parasites and the toxins that they create. But just when you're experiencing these symptoms, it brings up a lot of anxiety. Or if you're not able to follow your passion, or if you're not able to work, can bring up a lot of anxiety about finances and all of these things that y'all are familiar with. We are going to work on that in just a bit here, in just a moment. And before we do that, quick disclaimer, and that's that I am not a licensed therapist, and I'm not licensed to treat anxiety. So this is something that you're doing on your own. And that's what I do, really, is I empower you to be able to learn these types of tools and these approaches so that you can take your own health into your own hands and approach it yourself. Yeah. Now, another thing for those of you who have these illnesses where post-exertional malaise is an issue. So what that is, maybe you do an activity that before you got sick would have been fine, or that to a normal person wouldn't be that big a deal. But for you, you experience a crash after you do that activity. For some people, this is walking to the mailbox and back. For some people, this is washing dishes, things that seem very innocuous and very doable to most, again, normal people. So if you are experiencing an illness where you have to think about post-exertional malaise, the actual physical tapping that we're going to be doing, you might not want to do that because you don't want to cause a crash. The good news is that you can just imagine doing it along with us, and it works just as well. And some people have actually said that it works even better. I worked with 2 clients many years ago doing tapping, doing EFT, and they were the 2 clients that I'm thinking of right now. They were both paraplegics. And so they didn't physically have hands to be able to do the tapping, but they imagined it, and their results were just as good, if not better sometimes, than with my clients who actually physically do the tapping. Now, if you're listening, if you're not able to watch, if you're listening to the podcast, that's fine too. The points are fairly self-explanatory and the process is very forgiving. I'll do my best to explain exactly where we're tapping. And yeah, so before we get started with the tapping itself, grab a pen and paper, or you can do it on your computer as well, or your phone. And take a few moments right now to close your eyes and check in with yourself about your level of anxiety right now. And it's best if you can locate your level of anxiety around a particular subject. So maybe it's just around the fact that you're sick. Maybe you're having a particularly difficult day physically or emotionally. Maybe it's in response to a particular symptom that you're experiencing right now, or maybe it's around finances or relationship, whatever it is. And don't worry, because you can work on all of these. So just choose one for right now, and then close your eyes and tune into your body. Locate where it is in your body, where that anxiety is in your body. And then tune in and rate your level of anxiety about this particular subject on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is the most negatively intense. So a 10 would be like, I am so incredibly anxious about this. I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin right now. I can tell my nervous system is super amped up right now. And a 1 would be like, oh, I maybe don't even need to tap on this. And then I do suggest that you actually write down the subject that you're tapping on and your rating right now, because you're going to re-rate it after we finish with the tapping so that you can see that you're moving in the right direction. So take a few moments to do that. Great. And then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And we're going to start off by tapping on the side of the hand. This is also called the karate chop point sometimes. So you're going to keep on tapping, and you can repeat after me. Even though I feel really anxious, and you'll continue tapping, I choose to love and accept myself. Continuing to tap. Even though I feel anxious, keep on tapping. I choose to love and accept myself. Keep on tapping. Even though I'm feeling super anxious about this particular topic, and you can say your topic out loud, I choose to love and accept myself. And starting at the eyebrow point. So this is the inner eyebrow, just at the very edge of it there. All this anxiety that I'm feeling. Outer eye. Around my body. And you can use both hands or you can use one hand. Under the eye. All this anxiety that I feel in this area of my body. And think of that area. Under the nose. About my illness. Under the mouth. About how it makes me feel. Collarbone. And this one is just underneath the knobby parts of the collarbone, like towards the center. Again, you can't really get this wrong though. And how this illness limits me in the world. Under the arm. Or maybe there are other things that I'm feeling anxious about right now. Top of the head. All this anxiety. Inner eyebrow. All these anxious feelings and all this anxious behavior. Outer eye. I can feel my nervous system revved up right now. Under the eye. And I choose to shift this. Under the nose. It's safe to feel this anxiety. Under the mouth. And I can even soften around the anxiety right now. Right under the collarbone, the center collarbone knobs. It makes me so uncomfortable sometimes. Under the arm. This anxiety makes me feel so uncomfortable. Top of the head. I judge myself for feeling anxious. Inner eyebrow. I judge myself for having this illness. Outer eye. I judge myself for where I am in my life. Under the eye. I wonder if I can let go of this anxiety. Under the nose. I wonder if I can let go of judging myself. Under the mouth. How good would that feel? Collarbone. I'm willing to try it out. Under the arms. It's safe to let go of this anxiety. Top of the head. In this moment, right now, I am safe. Inner eyebrows. In this moment, right now, I am okay. Outer eye. And it's okay to let go of any memories. Under the eye. When I was really anxious. Under the nose. Any memories that caused me extreme anxiety. Under the mouth. It's okay for me to let go of that right now. Collarbone. Maybe part of me wants to hold on to this anxiety because it thinks that it's keeping me safe. Under the arm. But safe from what? Top of the head. I don't need to run away from anything. Inner eyebrows. I'm safe right now in this moment. Outer eyes. And I choose to release this anxiety. Under the eye. I choose to release worry. Under the nose. I choose to release fear. Under the mouth. I deserve to be here. I have a right to be here. Collarbone. I choose to be free, to feel the freedom. Under your arms, to feel the freedom of releasing anxiety. Top of the head, and I choose to feel calm and confident in my body, mind, and spirit. And releasing, taking a belly breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And I may have done that too fast for you to actually repeat what I was saying after me, but that's okay. You can just listen to it as well. And right now, check back in within your body and re-rate your feeling of anxiety around that particular topic. And write down your new rating. Now, most people do go down in their rating. Sometimes people go up, and that's okay too. Just know that your rating might go down over time, over the next hour or two, or maybe even the next day. Or you might have just opened up. I do find that oftentimes people who don't allow themselves to feel their emotions, that those are oftentimes the people for whom the rating goes up. Not always, but sometimes. And generally in that case, what you want to do is just do another couple rounds until it goes back down. It just means that there's been a cap that you've put on it and that you've opened that top so that you are feeling those emotions. So then with the tapping, you'll just take that back down. And then you can keep on tapping on this until it goes down to a 0 or a 1. And also know that a lot of times, actually typically, there are layers to these issues. But what you're going to find is that when you tap consistently, your overall stress level is going to be way lower, and that it's easier and easier for you to move into that rest, digest, heal mode. Now, I would love to hear from you in the comments or in our Facebook group about how that went for you. So let us know, what specific anxiety did you tap on, and what was your rating to begin with, and what is it now? Now, if you're interested in using tapping specifically for chronic illness, definitely check out my tapping for long hauler, ME, CFS, FM, and chronic illnesses online course. We'll have a link to that. And I can't wait to hear from you about how this went for you and to see you in the next episode. Do make sure to subscribe.